Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May Charter Chat. Uh, Next slide, please. So the information contained in this presentation is provided as a reference only. Charter schools and chartering authorities are encouraged to review the laws and regulations and consult with their own legal counsel regarding the application to their specific situations. So remember, even though we've got some lawyers on the call, we are all just here learning together. Next slide, please. So again, welcome. Please keep yourself muted. Where today's agenda will include introductions, current updates, hot topics, breakout rooms, and questions and answers. You please keep yourself muted, put your questions in the chat, but there will be a Q&A at the end. Remember, this session is being recorded. However, we will only be recording in the main room. The breakout rooms are not recorded. So as I said, today we will be discussing some introductions. We'll provide legislative, ACS, and State Board of Education updates. We will have hot topics on certification of information, LCAP preparation, and the May revise. Next slide, please. So I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Michelle Johnson. I'm the Associate Director for the Charter Schools Department for the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And I have my colleagues with me, Mifula Fairley, Matt Doherty, Shalu Sharma, and Cynthia Tapia, and Justin Fallon. We also, next slide, have our partners from the California Charter Authorizing Professionals, Tom Hutton, Dr. David Patterson. I don't believe that Debbie Deal is with us, but we do have our partners from CCAP. Next slide, please. So please take the time to rename yourself. It does help us to know who is in the room. In fact, I need to rename myself as well. So make sure you take the time to put your name and your organization. You don't need to add a room number. We know who's going to go where, but please make sure that we know your name and your organization. Next slide, please. And I will turn the time over to Dave and Tom.
Okay, well, thank you. I get to do the quick legislative updates. And so I'll review the bills. First is AB 84, Maratusi, School Accountability Audits, Charter Schools and Data Systems. That passed out of the suspense file on May 23rd and is now moving to third reading. AB 640 by the same author, Local Educational Agencies, Governance and Training, the same. That bill also is moved out of suspense file and is now moving to third reading. AB 1062 by Hoover, Local Control Funding Formula, Concentration Grants, Charter Schools Waiver. And that one, in fact, failed to get passage from Assembly Education. So that bill is not moving forward. It's dead for this session. Then the next bill is SB 48 Gonzalez, Immigration Enforcement in School Sites, Prohibition on Access Sharing and Sharing Information, etc. That bill is passed out on the suspense file and is now moving to third reading also. Next slide, please. Okay, SB 341 Perez, Instructional School Gardens Program, Reestablishment, Department of Food and Agriculture. That one was held in Appropriations Committee, which means it will not be moving forward. SB 414 by Ashby is the School Accountability, School Financial and Performance Audits. That one I obviously missed from that prior one. The fact that AB 84, which is the companion bill on the Assembly side, both of them have moved out of appropriations. and are on the floor on the respective houses, and both will need to move by June 6th. Then there's actually SB 631, the Charter School Revolving Loan Fund. That one passed out of the suspense file on May 23rd and is moving to third reading also. And then SB 719 Cabalden, which was school accountability, school financial and performance audit. That bill was held by the author. So the two main bills that are moving forward that relate to charter schools most directly are SB 414 and AB 84. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Dave. So the state board meeting was held on May 7th of 2025. The agenda included a non-classroom based funding determination and a discussion on the growth model. The next state board meeting will be held on July 9th through 10th. And the next ACCS meeting, or Advisory Commission on Charter Schools meeting, will be held on June 3rd of 2025. Next slide, please. So we're now going to move into the hot topics or information that you can use right now for program and fiscal, and I will turn the time over to Matt to talk about the program hot topics.
Short one today, and just a reminder about the charter school certification of information. Your charter schools need to complete this annual collection of information. And while you as authorizers are not required to do anything with this process, you may be contacted if the charter school does not respond. You're supposed to. Just a reminder, it is LCAP season. LCAPs are to be completed and submitted by July 1st for the coming year. You as authorizers, what you approve their LCAPs, but you definitely take a look to make sure they are in accordance with the law, including being in the all assembled with all the components within the correct order. That's it for program updates, and now kicking it over to Charlotte and Cynthia for this.
I would actually kick us off. Let's see. So today's fiscal oversight hot topic is the governor's 25-26 May revise. We want to provide a very brief highlight of the few key areas to keep in mind as you all finish the budget development process. Let's see. Foremost, the May revise forecasts a balanced state budget of $321.9 billion, down from $322.2 billion in governor's January budget. Also, the budget measures a $15.7 billion budget surplus, which is down from the $17 billion in January. And what this means for the K-12 is that the Proposition 98 guarantee, 24-25, has been adjusted downward, unfortunately, which ultimately means that there is some downward adjustments for K-12 schools. However, due to the uncertainty in state projections, the May revise is proposing for 24-25 guarantee of the $117.6 billion instead of the calculated $118.9 billion. Overall, the May revise includes $137.8 billion in total funding for TK through 12 education programs. This funding is up from the January budget proposal of $137.1 billion. Lastly, in Proposition 98 Rainy Day Fund, also known as the Public School System Stabilization Account, the May revise maintains a mandatory withdrawal of $8.4 billion in 23-24, as it was proposed in the January budget. Originally, the governor's January budget planned to add $1.2 billion in the fund for 24-25 and a discretionary deposit of $376 million in 25-26. However, due to the adjustments in capital gains revenues that may revise, the mandatory deposit in 24-25 is reduced to $540 million. And in 25-26, based on the changes in the Proposition 98 guarantee, the discretionary deposit of the $376 million is eliminated. And instead, it is requiring a mandatory withdrawal of $540 million, exhausting the remaining Prop 98 Rainy Day Fund balance. Next slide, please. And just to dive a bit more into detail of what actually matters at the local level. starting with the cost of living. The May revise proposes LCFF cost of living adjustment of 2.3%, which is down from 2.43 in the governor's January proposed budget. And just to name a few of the categorical programs receiving COLA, it will apply to special education, child nutrition, charter school facility, and mandated block grant. It is worth highlighting that to fully fund the LCFF and maintain the level of 25-26 principal apportionments, the budget proposes deferring $1.8 billion in LCFF funding from the June 2026 to the July 2026 payment. For Universal Transitional Kindergarten, or TK, the May revise proposes to provide a total of $2.1 billion of ongoing Prop 98 general fund to support the full implementation of TK. As a reminder, the full TK implementation is serving all children who turn 4 years old by September 1st of the school year they are enrolled. Now, the $2.1 billion proposed is down from the $2.4 billion that was in the January proposal. The budget also proposes $1.2 billion in ongoing Prop 98 general funds to support lowering the student to pupil ratio from 12:1 to 10:1 in all TK classrooms. Once again, this $1.2 billion is also reduced from the $1.5 billion in the January proposal, and it was revised due to lower ADA estimates. Next slide. And Julie will carry out through the rest of the highlights.
Sure, thank you, Cynthia. So moving on to the next program, which is Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, also known as ELOP. The May revision upholds the governor's commitment to expanded learning for TK students by broadening access to before, after school, or summer school program. As you may recall from January budget, the governor proposed to change the eligibility threshold for LEAs from 70%, which is 75%, which is currently in the budget, to 55% or higher. All LEAs with 55% or higher must now offer universal access for the ELOP program. To support this expansion, the May revision proposes $515.5 million in ongoing Proposition 98 general fund as an increase from $435 million that was proposed in January. This is about $80.5 million increase from the January proposal. Additionally, the proposal also includes $10 million, almost to double the minimum ELOP grant per LEA from $50,000 to $100,000. Moving on to Student Support and Professional Development Discretionary Block Grant, a mouthful. The May revision proposes reducing the investment in Student Support and Professional Development Discretionary Block Grant from $1.8 billion to $1.7 billion, almost a reduction of $1 million. The proposal largely remains unchanged and will provide LEAs with funds to address rising costs and support statewide priorities. Please remember, again, this is a discretionary block grant and it's not limited just to the state priorities. Next slide, please. Next, we are going to talk about Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. The May revision maintains the restoration of $378.6 million to Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant to support Learning Recovery Initiative through 27-28. However, point to note that LEAs will need to do a needs assessment for the use of these funds and must include the expenditure of these funds in their LCAP. More clarity we'll get more clarity as we get the enacted budget and the trailer bills. Next, investment literacy. We just want to share the May revise continues to propose for $40 million of one-time funding in 25-26 to support instruments and materials and staff training for TK-12 literacy screening, and $500 million in one-time grant for expansion of literacy and math coaches. School facilities. The May revision continues to propose the sale of $1.5 billion Proposition 2 bonds. And of that, $600 million is proposed to be specifically allocated for charter school facilities construction and renovation. Next slide, please. Back to you, Michelle.
All right, thank you. Thank you for all the information with regards to the May revise information. For those of you who are just joining us, you'll be able to have access to the resource page, which gives a link to all that information from the May revise. So we're now going to move into our breakout rooms. Can we please put the link for the note taker? We do have facilitators for the breakout rooms. So facilitators, please make sure that you have access to the note taker, and we will then be jumping into breakout rooms to cover your hot topics or questions or anything that you need. Please make sure that when you go into each room is a different slide in the note taker. Keep introductions short in the interest of time, but please make sure that we introduce any first timers. When we come back out, we will be reporting the discussion highlights back to the full group, and let's take the time to now head into breakout rooms. Amy?
Opening now.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I saw the 5-minute note, and then all of a sudden we were all back in the main room. So that's fine. We can all just debrief and get the gift of time. Because we all need a few extra minutes just to be able to go, because everything is just so insane in our lives right now. So I will share what we talked about in room 1, and then we'll go into the others. So we talked briefly about renewals. We talked about A3 and fraud, basically knowing the difference between ADA and enrollment. And then an idea came up that we really should have a fiscal best practice that list that basically tells all of the authorizers, here's exactly what you need to do as an authorizer and where to find it so that we can avoid fraud. And I know that that's kind of what they were looking at trying to do in the 3 different task force. And Dave can talk way more about this than I can, but that's what we're trying to do. And so it just resonated again that we need to have some clear-cut direction as to what we have to do as authorizers. All right, room 2.
Okay, so in room 2, we talked about renewals, in particular our experiences with low tier schools. We talked about using annual reports to notate academic achievement for the schools, especially if it's a low performing school, to make sure that that's noted in the annual report. And also to note their performance category in the annual reports. And then we also talked about whether or not or when to send a letter of concern to a charter school for low achievement. So kind of deciding at what point do you send a letter, or if you even send a letter, at what point would you do that? And one reason for doing it would be to help the authorizer support a recommendation of denial at renewal. So the authorizer can say, well, we were aware of your low achievement. We made you aware of it, even though they should be aware of it on their own. And so now we're denying you because of it. And if there's anybody in the group who wants to add on, please feel free to unmute and say more.
All right, room 3.
So in room 3, we touched on the legislation a little bit, and I think the best information we had is maybe not a lot changed in the 2 big bills that relate to oversight. Senate Bill 414 and AB 84 as they came out of the financial committees. And then we really turned to some renewal scenarios similar to Mifula's group. We heard some of the interesting situations and the more interesting cases that have been going on in Laco. Jeff was sharing, and in Alameda that Yusara was sharing, and Oakland as well that Kelly shared with us, and had a few little in the weedsy things, good suggestions for CASI and for CCAP, which we will attend to.
All right, room 4.
We had a good discussion around defining enrollment and what systems or processes that authorizers might use to monitor their charter schools for viability, and demonstrate oversight to the board as charter schools are closing due to things they're finding enrollment across the state. We had a conversation about DAS school, about how its demographics change, and how do you determine the status of them as a DAS school any longer, or the Department's rural vision. And finally, we had a question about board training prior to a board, if the board has changed over in the pause, under the renewal clause, how do you train them up to be able to expect? And had a couple of shout outs as for Michelle Johnson and Andrew Ciccarelli as good resources for training materials to the news.
Thank you. All right, room 5.
Okay, well, this was the non-authorizer room, and for surprise, the major discussion was about AB 84. The note was made that there's currently was pegged by appropriations as $50 to $60 million in additional cost for the bill. There was a good amount of conversation and a lack of full understanding of the 30% cut, because the current understanding of the language that those days that are quote classroom based must meet instructional minute requirements for a classroom based day. There was and if so, how would you claim ADA? There was just a lot of questions and a lot of need for clarity there, because there in some cases there was also discussion that if those in fact are in place, that it may be virtually impossible for any charter school to meet those requirements of more than the 70% of funding because of the instructional minute. How would it be implemented and how would it be documented? Related to that would be there was a question about, does that require every school to get that wishes to do more than 70% to have a material change to their charter? And then there was some conversation about Job Corps, and the federal response to it is indicated that the President Trump may wish to close Job Corps as possibly as early as June 30th. There's a federal report out there, and so there's a significant amount of concern about what is happening there. So the amount of anxiety and lack of clarity is amplified on the federal level, just as there's a lot of issues at the state level. That's what I captured. Anyone else from our breakout room that wishes to add, please do.
I would. I just want to add as it relates to Job Corps, and good morning, everyone. This is my first time joining, and so I really appreciate the opportunity. When it comes to Job Corps, this is a nationwide program. It's been around for, I don't want to misquote for it, but decades. And it will be a displacement of our most neediest, the students that need us the most. They have wraparound services, housing, and so where do these students go? So the signal from Trump's administration to eliminate the program, like within the next 30 to 60 days, has really, I think in some ways, galvanized and brought folks together to really talk and speak to their local representatives, because you have just in well, we know the numbers, and so it's a huge concern. And so anyone that may have any guidance or help as it relates to the Job Corps program and who we need to be in front of and have conversations with, that would be very helpful. We have 7 Job Corps centers in California: San Diego, Inland Empire, Long Beach, LA, San Jose. Sacramento and Treasure Island. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the debrief of the information. So we do love feedback. Next slide. Please complete our short survey to share your feedback and suggest hot topics for our upcoming charter chat and our regional training meetings. Next slide, please. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Okay, well, same bat time, same bat channel next month. We'll see you for June's charter chat on the 25th. We have the next planned quarterly training for CASI. This is virtual. Will be on July 17th. Setting up for success is the topic for that one. Next slide. Topic near and dear to my heart in the other lineup of upcoming CASI events is we have the CCAP conference, which will be June 16th to 18th. That will include a variety of things for that have CASI on it. The first is our traditional pre-conference, which is Charters 101. So if you're new to the field or you are in a part of a shop that deals with one piece of the elephant and want the view of the rest of the elephant, this is a great way to get the grounding for the rest of the deeper dives that come in the rest of the conference program. There will be a CASI session on non-classroom based charter schools, including the things that are in debate in Sacramento now that Dave alluded to. There's also a CASI session on year zero, and if your year zero school has a charter school program grant and things go south, how do you handle that? Allison from the department will be presenting on that with Michelle. And then on Wednesday, as you may have seen if you're on our alerts, we have a variety of roll up your sleeves deeper dives, which the conference feedback was we'd like more time to actually roll up our sleeves and do things and come away having gotten something done. So that's an optional after Wednesday's plenary. If you want to stay for the rest of the afternoon, we have a cool menu of choices. There's always something for fiscal throughout the whole program if you're a fiscal person. And we've got one there. So check that menu out. And we are hopeful that we'll get our traditional last minute a bunch of registrants who decide that their June is looking good enough for them to come see us.
So just as a quick, I've already gotten a few people going, oh, I can't access the survey. So I have I guess I put the wrong link in the chat. So here's the correct survey link. So please use this survey link and we'll make sure that it all works. All right. So additional upcoming information, if you're interested in having Authorizing 101 or Fiscal 101 or any topic of your choice, we can come to you locally or via Zoom. Please reach out to us and we're more than happy to share and provide you training to fit your needs. Next slide, please. So we are going to give you the gift of time. So 10 minutes. I hope that you're able to utilize it wisely and it brightens your day. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us and we'll see you next time.